I love you. See, I brought him up. We didn't go to the doctor for every little thing. Mm-hmm. We waited to see how it was going to be, but it was funny because when he gets sick, he gets dots under his eyes.
Oh.
He still does.
Mm-hmm.
And he
dots or bumps? Are they bumpy? Bumpy dots?
Sometimes they are, but most of the time they're just dots. Are they bumpy dots, Mike? And his wife tells me that he still gets them. Mm-hmm. And he's in his late 20s now. But so neither one of my boys go to the doctor for just anything. They cure themselves.
That's really interesting. Can I tell you my take on that just really quick?
Yes.
Because I have to get it out.
Okay.
Under the eyes is always liver. Liver
really?
is your detoxification.
Ever since he was little, he's been getting that.
Liver is detoxification.
Did you hear that, Mike?
So when he's getting well, his body's detoxifying.
Right.
And that's probably what's bringing those out. It's just a theory.
Interesting.
It's an assumption, but that's cool.
Yeah, it's really cool.
That's why people get dark circles, too.
Right.
When they're
so
sick.
He could never pretend like he was sick.
No! Poor Mikey. She looked at you and she said, get your butt to school.
Really sick. Errol could pretend.
I always do that with my boys too. They'd look at me and be like, "Get to school." I can tell you're fine.
One time I sent Errol to school and he kept telling me his stomach was upset, but he had a test that day, and I kept saying, "No, you're fine." And he went to school and threw up all over the place. I never did it again.
Yeah, that was nerves,
I never
though.
said no. It wasn't. He had the flu.
Oh, he did.
Yeah.
Oh,
I felt
man,
really bad.
Yeah, I would feel bad.
So that was a very good conversation. Yeah. And you want to know mine now?
I do.
Which is so funny because the whole thing, the faith, believe, and know is on the same CD that I was listening to this morning, and I was going to talk about, I can't think of the name of them, free radicals and all that kind of stuff.
Okay. Antioxidants?
Yes, antioxidants.
Okay.
Thank you. Good thing I didn't pick that because I couldn't even think of what I was. And so my little pamphlet I read last night, and we were going to talk about that. But on the way here this morning,
change of heart,
I heard this CD that came on about the knowing and believing, and the other thing we have talked about is how your outlook and your feelings toward yourself affect your health. If you are harboring resentment, guilt, anger,
fear,
any of those negative emotions that lower your vibration, your health is going to suffer eventually. It may not right away, but the longer you hold on to those things, the more disease you're going to.
Yes. Abraham says that being sick is just the absence of having wellness.
Oh, and that's very true. So Wayne Dyer says, and he wasn't talking about being well physically, but I tied that in naturally. Because so many times, as a coach, I sit and talk to women who are having these odd symptoms. And so oftentimes I'll do Reiki treatment on them to see where they're blocked. And it's usually heart, or throat. Those are usually sometimes it's the root chakra, sometimes it's third eye. Sometimes it's crown. Sometimes it's sacral. Rare. But those two are the most. Yeah. So they have things that they need to say that are not being said. And they've been hurt in love. Those are the two primary things. So that's my background. I know all that. So Wayne Dyer says today, wouldn't it be beautiful to start fresh every day with who you are right now? Think about that for a minute. Not who you were in high school. Not who you were in high school. And all of those things like the wake in a boat made you who you are now, but it has nothing to do with it anymore.
Right.
It's back there, gone. And if you don't look back, you don't see it.
Not only that, but when you're at that stage, you don't always look at those things as benefits.
Right, exactly.
And
That's
when you
the
get
point.
older
Yeah.
and you have hindsight 2020, you're like, wow, did I learn a lot from that experience?
Right. But look at all the baggage that we bring into relationships. And I don't mean just into new relationships, into relationships we already have. Well, 3 years ago, you said this to me, and I've never quite forgiven you for that.
Wow.
Or, I mean,
But
that
that's what people
affects
do.
everything. It is. So, and then there's the good memories too, the glory days, so to speak, that you keep reliving, like football players, or maybe you did something that you thought was phenomenal and you can't let it go. It's not you anymore. You are not that person
That
anymore.
can be strong.
That can be really strong. There are people that will not, they will not allow themselves to be reinvented, even though they no longer want to be that person.
Right.
They cannot let go of that.
Right. And it's like if they could only get to the other side and see how much better it feels, then they would let it go.
Right.
But they're just so fearful of letting go of who they were, who they perceived that they were.
And they define themselves by it.
Yes.
This is who I am. But they say, they talk about it past tense, but it's so now in their minds.
It's so active.
It's so linear, right?
Yeah.
It's so right there.
Yeah.
So that and just, okay, so a few years ago, a woman really took advantage of my good nature, and I taught her a lot of stuff, and boom, she went and opened up her own place with a lot of my ideas. For a while, that really hurt me, and then I thought, well, my ideas were good, and she's serving an area that I can't serve. So the way she went about it wasn't right, but does that mean I'm not going to be friends with anybody else and tell them my ideas and share them?
Was her intention
yes
to hurt you?
Yeah.
Or
pretty
was her
much.
intention to be like you?
Maybe a little bit of both.
It's interesting,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Either way,
but
it
doesn't
concern
matter.
Yeah.
So, and when you start a new job, or even go into your job the next day, maybe the day before, somebody said something to you that upset you a little bit, or that wasn't true, or whatever. If you harbor that day after day, what's going to happen? You're going to start hating that job, when maybe before that you loved it. Every day, be fresh and new.
I like that.
And I do too. I thought it was so powerful.
It's tough though, because I do try that. Maybe not in that many words, but I do try to start every day from a high point and meditate till I get there, and then try to hold on to it as long as I can throughout the day. But there are things, there are what they call triggers. There's triggers, and I was facing a few triggers over the past month and a half. Just weird stuff, random stuff pop up. Oh, I heard something about you. So-and-so said something, and it wasn't the most favorable thing. And that hurts. But then I think about it and I go, well, hey, honestly, at least they're talking about me.
Exactly. And it
least
was
I'm on their
their
mind.
perception.
Right.
It was their perception, and it doesn't have any bearing on you whatsoever.
No, and
It's
the funny
that
part is the
person.
person who was listening to it was dismissing it as it was being said
Right,
anyway, because
right,
they know me.
right.
And,
And that other person probably didn't know you.
Yeah. And then I had another situation where somebody who really puts a lot of emphasis on utilizing my services and stuff like that, which is great. But then it's almost like you can't do enough to please them.
Oh, right.
Like,
right.
you're just never enough. And that
Right,
bothered me
right.
too. And I'm like, well, should I try to do more?
No.
No, because
Those
then
people
that's
you're
harming
never
me.
going to make happy
That's
anyway.
right,
So
that's
you
right.
do what you can
Yeah.
and do what you
And then
feel.
I try not to hang on to that. And,
Right.
and that doesn't mean that I'll never address it. I do need to address it eventually, but it's not something that I need to get all worked up over.
No. No, and those are the exact things that you have to let go.
Yeah.
You have to let go of, because it doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't.
It really doesn't matter.
I know why I'm there. And
Right.
I know the intent and purpose that I'm there
Exactly.
with.
And
So,
that is pure.
Usually
and
it comes across, but every so often I meet people who have filtering processes that does not allow that intention of mine to come through.
Right, because they're blocked.
Yeah.
And my mom always said that if they weren't talking about you, they'd be talking about somebody else, and you can take it.
Well, that's kind of what I meant by at least they were talking about
Right,
me. You know,
right.
It's like, well.
And so let them talk.
Yeah, it's
let
okay.
them talk.
It's not
right.
harming me in any way.
Right.
Because I don't take that negativity in as much as I used to. I do take it in a little. I'm not going to lie. It does affect me a little. But then I usually can just reason with my own, ego. Because that's really what it is.
It is.
It's my ego, and everybody has an ego. And, for the longest time, I thought I needed to,
squelch it.
yeah, like roofie my
Yeah.
ego.
Right.
Like, you don't need that. But you do. You need it. You need
Your
the
ego
to-
protects you.
It does,
Oh.
and it balances you, and it teaches you things.
Right.
Because it teaches you what the triggers are that you need to work on to make your life more enriched. So...
Right, I agree.
So it's a good thing in a bad way.
But
Like you have to deal with it, but it's a good thing. That you
right,
have to
and
deal
so
with it.
when you do hear things like that, or when a person does say something to you that's derogatory, and you owe nobody an explanation, but should you talk about it? Should you vent? If that's ego that wants to do those things.
I'm not big on venting. I'll vent once in a while to my husband. He don't like it, so I don't do it a lot. And the only reason he don't like it is because he doesn't like to see me upset.
Right.
But
yeah, that's right. And they try to solve things right away.
Yeah, but when more often than not, I don't vent because that's to me that's.
But do you harbor resentment then? Do you let
try
it build
not
up?
to, and this
Okay,
is
good.
why. Because if I am venting and I'm talking to people about it, that's keeping that vibration
Exactly.
alive.
That's
and that's what
right.
I don't want to do.
Right.
I don't want more of the same. So it's not that I squelch it, but I feel the pain that I'm feeling. I accept that I'm feeling pain from whatever it is. I try to learn whatever lesson is there, and then I let it go.
That's exactly what you should do.
Yeah, because
but
I
that
don't wanna
letting
sit
go
there
is
and-
so important. And there's so many ways to let it go. You could journal.
Mm-hmm.
You could pray. You could write it down and burn it, or throw it away, or flush it down the toilet, whatever, and
You could
let
just-
it go. Don't hold it in.
Yeah.
No, don't hold it in.
Yeah, you could just the tough part. I'll tell you what happens. The process I just described. The tough part is allowing yourself to feel the feeling because you don't
Yes.
want to. You don't
Yeah.
want to feel it. So you're like that person. You know what? They had no right. I'm going to tell you why. They had no right to say this about me because I'm this. And who are you trying to convince? Did you like my person? I got a good personality on that one. I don't know who I was.
It was you.
I was
That was
channeling
funny.
myself.
You were. Wow.
That person.
So let's, what I think is funny, and then we're going to have to wrap up. I think is funny when somebody doesn't know that you know somebody that they'll say bad things about. I find that so amusing because I love saying, I know them and you're wrong. Mm-hmm. Or they would never do that.
Or I'll say to them, I don't think that's any of my business. And they'll stop
Oh, I
for
love
a
that,
minute.
yes.
They'll stop for a minute because then they're like, did she just tell me that
Right.
it's none of my business?
Right.
No, she didn't. She said it's none of her business.
Right. And
That's a way to stop them,
And one of my favorite things is, how does that affect you?
Right. Or, but I try not to get confrontational with those people because they'll get really defensive about it. So
And then they'll talk about you.
I'll just say, I don't
We
think
were
that's my
gossiping.
business.
We
I probably
we
shouldn't
were
know about
gossiping,
that.
and she wouldn't join us in the gossip.
Yeah.
That would be a really good reputation to have.
Yeah. Hey, I'll take it.
Me
I'll
too,
take it.
me
You
too.
can talk all day about that for me.
So
yeah.
we talked about a lot of stuff today, important stuff that you should know. I think number one is Open yourself to alternative medicine.
Yes.
If you are
Or any alternative
any,
thought.
Yes, that's true. Good
Any
point.
thought that is not mainstream, don't just dismiss it before thinking about it. God gave you a